let's begin. The biggest question this election season has been, what happens if we get a Khichdi Sarkar? And a certain set of people, especially stock market investors and industry, see this as very bad news. The BJP has made the fear of a Maha Milawat or coalition government a prime port plank. But are coalitions truly bad for India? What does the data show? Have GDP growth rates been spectacular under majority governments and terrible under coalition governments? Not really. Have markets tanked under coalition governments and zoomed during the last 5 years? Well, the data is contradictory. So why the fear of coalitions? Coalition se dar kyun lagta hai? To speak on this, I'm joined today by an eclectic panel. Sanjoy Hazarika, International Director, Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, joins us today. I'm also speaking with Tathagat Satpathy, a former Member of Parliament from the Biju Janata Dal and a journalist currently. Ajay Srivastav, CEO of Dimensions Corporate Finance Services, joins us, as does Sunil Subramaniam MD and CEO of Sundaram Mutual. Welcome to all of you. I encourage you to participate openly and freely in this debate and come in with different points of views. I'm going to come first to Sanjoy Hazarika, who has argued in a piece you've written for the Economic Times that a coalition government is preferable to a single majority government. Are you saying that only in the context of the last 5 years, Sanjoy?
No, I think overall in the past couple of decades we've seen that this is a very complex and country to govern, and in the past years regional parties have grown in strength. Some of them are working well in coalitions, whether it's in small states or big states, whether it's the recent elections or earlier elections. So I think that a country that is as diverse as this needs to respect the fact that it is diversity that needs to be reflected in a government that comes to pass. Now, I'm not predicting what's going to happen a few days from now, that we will get to know. I'm just putting my point of view as a person who believes that, respect and collaboration is really the key to good governance and growth in the next years. And India is not what it was in the 60s and 70s when a few coalitions were hurriedly put together. I think you have much more sensible leaders who are attuned to the ground. I mean, it may be, as I argued in the piece, the basic fundamental thing may be my enemy's enemy is my friend. But beyond that, everybody knows that they have a job to do and services to deliver, and especially whatever the percentage of whatever they've promised.
They also have more elections to win, and that is what political parties do go for. After the first win, they're already planning for the next one. Let me get Ajay Srivastav in here and get his view on this. What is the real fear of coalitions, Ajay? And speaking beyond the markets and, the investment community and industry, why are coalitions feared?
Of course, that's a popular perception that the stock market fears coalition. I don't think that is true. Most of us had made the best part of the money in the Indian market when the coalition were there. It's not about coalition, it's not about the control of one party or the other. I think it's all about whether the institutions which are responsible for governing a country are working. Let's be honest, no political party alone can dictate economic fortunes. It's a central bank which is supposed to be independent, it's the CBDT which collects the taxes and how well it creates an atmosphere and the policies and administration, it's the people on the ground. It's a whole administrative setup which creates a country which progresses well. Logically speaking, I think it's important to understand that institutions, as long as they're working well, can, in any form of government, can deliver a good performance for the economy. The problem comes that in either of the setup, if the institutions start to wobble, and I think that's where we saw in context of this last 5 years, that one of the biggest decisions which has come about to be discussed is demonetization. When a central bank wobbled, I think the whole economy wobbled along with that. So it's not that we fear a coalition. In fact, we say a responsible government, doesn't matter from where it comes, whether single party or multiple party, should do well. The question is, will the institutions who deliver economic performance, institutional do administration, are those doing their jobs? I think that's it. And somehow, I think the common sense tells us today that they do a better job when they have less political control on them than more political control. I think so. It's a fallacy to believe that the stock market believes that only economic performance and stock market will do bad in a coalition government. I don't think it works. I think what we want is delivery and performance and consistency of policy implementation. That's more important to us. And of course, globally, how the markets are, that's equally relevant to us, that how do they view the country. In that context, a single government, obviously, party makes more sense. But otherwise, I don't think it makes a difference either ways, as long as basic institutions perform the role.
I don't know if as I remember it, all of 2013 leading into 2014 and maybe till 15, 16, the only talk maybe I heard, and I have Sunil Subramaniam in the studio with me, tell me if I'm wrong, the only talk that I heard from market participants was that, the heavens would fall if there was a coalition government. I think till the 5 state elections in December last year, that was pretty much the tone. I'm not accusing you or Ajay, but is the market also hedging its bets? Because I'm hearing more voices saying that coalition is okay.
So there are two things here. I think a slight disagreement with Ajay in terms of, he said that market doesn't worry about strong government. I think the reality is that stock market performance is not linked to strong government, but markets are worried about non-strong government. Why? Because if you see why this market was very, very concerned, right? FDI. Right? To invite FDI, you need a strong government, because foreigners feel that they need that clarity which will come from a single majority party, because they know the policies and practice. But the fact of the matter is, there are the opposite side, and if you look at the stock market returns, right, and classically if you take 2003 when the UPA government came to power, in the next 5 years I think the Sensex delivered 50% per annum returns. Yeah. Whereas with all that, Mr. Modi came over and the initial hoo-ha, today it's a 12% annualized return over his term. So clearly the stock market actual performance hasn't reflected that a strong government. So I think the key here is, and you mentioned a khichdi sarkar, right? So I think markets fear a khichdi sarkar, because a khichdi sarkar is one, dal, chawal, everything pulls.
It's an important point. How do you define a khichdi sarkar? Let me come to Tathagat Satpathy on it, because we've heard this khichdi sarkar so much during the poll campaign. You have Prime Minister Modi saying ki khichdi sarkar aayegi, the BJP says there'll be a khichdi sarkar. You have some Congress leaders who say that when you're sick you need khichdi. But how do you define a khichdi sarkar? Because technically the current government is run by the NDA, which is BJP plus plus. There are allies in this government as well, even though the BJP by itself has a majority.
The plus actually do not matter. That we saw how the Shiv Sena behaved inside the Lok Sabha, and it is just the BJP and Mr. Narendra Damodar Das Modi who overpowered everything else. Earlier there was one of your participants who talked about institutions being safeguarded. What I have come to realize is institutions are not living beings. They are something on pen and paper. They are an idea. They are a thought. And it is the human resource which implements the bias or the non-bias of any institution, whether it's the Reserve Bank of India or the CBI or the CBDT. And the policies may be made by Parliament, but always in India we see that the rules are made by bureaucrats. So eventually it all boils down to bureaucrats. When we talk about a khichdi sarkar, let me tell you one thing. Khichdi is one of the easily digestible food that we have in India. It is the poor man's food of mixing up everything, saving firewood and cooking everything at one go. So khichdi by me is extremely fine. I have no problems with khichdi, and I believe India is actually too vast, too diverse and too big. A Mizo youth or a Naga youth may not have the same dreams as an Oriya youth or a Malayali youth or a Maharashtrian youth. So to put them one put them all under one umbrella, and if somebody is above the umbrella, you cut that neck down. So if somebody is too low, you can't pull him up. I do not think the country can actually function like that. So I believe that the more number of participants we have, the better it is. I personally, I have opted out of electoral politics, but I would vote for a national government.
Let me present the counter to that, to Sanjoy as well as Tathagat Satpathy, and what people fear. Now, if you see a coalition government coming after 23rd May, and one doesn't want to stick one's neck out and predict either way, but then there is a possibility that with the Mahagathbandhan doing well in Uttar Pradesh, you will have a government with the SP and the BSP in it, and both of them will fight against each other in 2021, because that's what their DNA is. They are, regional parties who need to fight the next election. And now, how does that work out? If you have a situation where for some reason you have Chandrababu Naidu and KCR on one side, there's going to be a problem coming ahead. Sanjoy, how do you fit that real politic into this sort of utopian situation that we're discussing? They're going to be opposing forces on decisions like disinvestment or fiscal balance and maybe foreign policy as well.
Look, coalition politics is real politics, okay? And I'm very glad that Mr. Satpathy picked up on the khichdi point, because that was the point of my article today in the ET, in which I basically say that, look, okay, it's good for the stomach. It's also the national dish of India. That's what it's supposed to be, okay? And I'm rather amused that the Congress party is saying that khichdi is good for the stomach. It is they, after the emergency in 1977, who said that this is khichdi politics, and this is very bad. And Jagjeevan Ram, who had bolted from the Congress party, said, actually it's good for you. And I think that it's a question, I think most political leaders do realize that they are really under the scanner, whether it's a one party or a group of parties, and whether it is the Gathbandhan which wins in UP or not. I think you are seeing much greater public pressure on politicians to deliver, and the need for them to work together. Coalition doesn't mean completely coalescing. It doesn't mean dissolving your identities. You will battle each other. You will struggle against each other. But if your enemy's enemy is your friend, then you will see the bigger purpose for what you are fighting. That's the basic thing. And I think whether it's the stock market or the CPDT or whatever it is, the institutions inherently are strong, but they have been shaken, including the courts of this.
Okay, Ajay Srivastava wants to come in.
In the past years.
Ajay Srivastava wants to come in. Ajay, do you have a counter to that argument?
See, I think, it's not about that khichdi is good or bad. I think that's we always take khichdi as the last resort. It is never the preferred dish. So to that extent, I think it comes
just as an aside, the whole debate about calling khichdi a national dish is a contentious one, so I won't get into that. But now, please continue.
Okay. I think that the important thing for us is to realize that and I think I'm contextualizing to Indian context at this point of time, that if you look at, I think Sanjay said that, listen, politicians will have to deliver. If you look at the dialogue which is going around in the political discourse, that is so far removed from the economic realities of most people or what they're encountering. There's no discussion of these economic issues at all in any forum whatsoever. It's all about different things and everything else. So I think there is definitely a dichotomy between what the politicians are spinning out at this point of time and across the board. It doesn't matter which party you are in. None of them have a cohesive policy to say how will this whole slow down, how will this whole problem start to be put together and addressed. I don't think they have a solution. I think they want to run away from the solution. So it's not about coalition government will find a better answer or a single party will find. I think the answer is that can there be a good feedback mechanism that goes back to the government, and if the government is so omnipotent, it can choose to not to listen to it. I think that's an honest answer. But if there is a good, healthy dialogue between the industry and people on the ground and what's happening to the policies and implementation, I think you'll find a healthy debate which will take forward in an economic performance. As far as, so what do people want? They want a healthy, happy life, a prosperous life. I think most people don't want beyond that. But what is happening is, it's not about coalition. It's all about, is the feedback mechanism working or not working? Because and the answer is that quite obviously, if you have a very omnipotent party with, let's say, Congress was with 400 seats at one point of time, the feedback mechanism broke completely and they lost the election next time around. If that mechanism can work well, it doesn't matter. As I said, it doesn't matter which government comes into power. We didn't know Mr. Narasimha Rao from Adams actually when he walked in as the Prime Minister. We never expected something dramatic to come out of it, even after Manmohan Singh after retirement. So I think it's all about who are the personalities behind the political
parties. The feedback mechanism has broken in the last 5 years. I'm sorry, I'm going to hold you to what you said. Are you saying that the feedback mechanism has broken in the last 5 years? Because I think beyond the point, we can't really have this debate in very theoretical terms. We're talking about it in the context of this government.
I think yes, it is broken because let's take the GST implementation. We really been through a lot of problems, haven't we?
You want to comment on that, Sunil?
Yeah, I want to come on 2 points here. Yeah. One is this khichdi, I think, is not acceptable. Okay, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. But a coalition is acceptable and better. What I mean is that a single party which has got a significant proportion of the vote seats driving a coalition government. So, let me say that the single largest party should be 150 to 170. The balance 100 odd seats can be spread. That's not khichdi, because khichdi is 50, 50, 50, 45, right? That is something where you need that central direction on defense, on this, on certain things, and then you need that feedback mechanism that pulls and push. So I think that's the kind of coalition which is got, not a fully single majority, not a khichdi. The second part I wanted to say is that inclusive development happens only in coalition governments. And if you look at the GDP data that you're showing, the true GDP that India went from this old Hindu rate of growth of 5 to 6% to the 7-8% happened when the Bimaru states, which were at 1 to 2%, went up to 3 to 4%. Bimaru being Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, they were very slow. How did that happen? Only because there was a coalition which was able to get their regional support done to do the infrastructure. So to me, a strong single party in a coalition government is the best of both worlds, and that's, I think, what has seen in the past. Both GDP growth and the stock markets have ultimately respected that, and that's the best returns that has come.
Yeah, okay. Tadhakar, let me come to you on that point. Again, we started by asking how do you define a khichdi, and there's no way really to tell what the right proportion would be. Suffice to say, if you see a single largest party, even with, you're saying 150 to 170 seats, you're going to have other regional players who will have a big say. Even in UPA 2, UPA 1, when all of those scams were being spoken about, it was in the context of the pressure that, say, the DMK exerted on the government of that day. How will any coalition government avoid those pitfalls?
I do not think any coalition government can possibly avoid those pitfalls, first of all. I think those are inbuilt hurdles that the Indian democracy has to handle and has to overcome. It is not something very simple. It is a process of maturing. Our politicians are also, we all complain that bad people are coming into politics, but we ourselves always keep a distance from politics. What I have seen by being in active politics from 1990 till early this year is that we have created a situation where politics attracts the worst elements. The people who come into politics want to usurp, grab, totally keep for themselves all kinds of authority that they possibly can. This has resulted in a creation of bad human resource, or I wouldn't say bad is a very strong term, I would say weak, incapable, ineffable human resource, which has not hesitated to distance itself from the people if it felt that power was for it forever. So the best thing for a country like India, in a democracy like India, is that nobody should be certain that they will be in power the next time. So I always appreciated the average voter of Tamil Nadu who changed till recently. They changed every 5 years.
No, absolutely. But I think the fear is not about will the same set of people be in power the next time. The fear is that will this kind of a coalition government last a 5-year term? And once again, Ajay, let me come to you on that point. Is that fear even valid? And what kind of disruptions does one foresee or fear in that kind of a situation if you have a government which might not be stable?
See, I think, the stable government is a function of what people are willing to, respect the authority, and number two is that can the country afford repeated elections? I think no politician wants to go for election again and again in the next 5 years. So I think stable government is a given. Some may walk in, some may walk out of the coalition. That may happen. It's never really actually happened that, coalitions have fallen except for a very, what I think someone mentioned, like a true khichdi with a very, very small party, the Charan Singh government, etc., which fell very fast. But by and large, we have seen that coalitions have a way of evolving, have a way of living, have a way of accommodating, some good, some bad. Mr. Satpathy said that you got to accommodate some bad elements as well and some bad policies as well in that. But point is, I don't think that's the worry. I think that, will they survive for 5 years? Of course they will survive for 5 years. That's mutual survival. They will do it. They will need to be there. They don't want to go to the electorate again. But I think the question is, what kind of people are getting together? Are their policies consistent with what they're talking to each other? It can't be that one is on the extreme right and one is extreme left. And to that extent, I think India is lucky that most of the political parties actually believe in the same thing. If you ask them, the slogans are the same, the manifesto is the same, everything is the same. So I don't think that worry exists today that if this coalition comes, or any coalition which for that matter, will it last the 5 year? 5 year is a given. They don't want to go to the elections again, believe me, and I don't think so. The ideologies are so widely different, except maybe one party, that they cannot live together for the common good, and the common good is not only what they do for us, for themselves as well.
Sanjay, I'm going to end by asking you a slightly controversial controversial question. When there is this talk of Maha Milawat, Khichdi Sarkar, or the fear of coalition governments, is there an underlying sort of snootiness vis-a-vis regional parties? Where a wide section of people is comfortable seeing a BJP-led government or a Congress-led government maybe, which are national parties, but you're not too sure about, the parties that have ruled states like Bihar, like Uttar Pradesh, like West Bengal, like Tamil Nadu, and that is where this sense also comes from?
See, I think it basically depends on the deals you cut. Frankly, politics, and I come from a family that's been in politics for many years, although I'm not in a party. It depends on the deals you cut. And I take the point that there has to be a large, strong party, a single party, and the others add on. So it's a question of understanding your best interests and working for that. But there's another thing I would point out is that when Narasimha Rao and the Congress party got elected and Manmohan Singh was picked to be finance minister, I don't think that was an overwhelming majority government which actually brought in the biggest economic reforms that this country has seen. So, and frankly, to go back to khichdi, which is not maybe my favorite food, but different parts of the country cook it differently. Some put more rice, some put more dal, some put vegetables. So, and some even put in Mizoram. I've even come across khichdi with chicken. So, it's really how you play the game and how you focus and how you conclude those deals at the last minute, which you build up to, and then 5 terms, at least 5-year term, you say, okay, we have to do this for the next 5 years, as Mr. Satpathy said. That is what you need to aim for.
Okay, so on that note, I want to thank all of you. It is dinner time for many, and maybe having khichdi or maybe something else. But thank you so much. It's the big topic. The fear of the khichdi/coalition government seems to have waned. Is that what we will see after 23rd May? And if so, is there some sort of acceptance of that? That is the big question. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us. We're taking a very short break, but on the other side, it's a debate that is crucial. The role of the Election Commission this season, and